Here we are back again. I promised you a video. We're going to do a little pork loin tonight. We're going to inject it. And with that pork loin, we're going to do a little mushroom risotto with asparagus on the side. Now, take a look. You have your brown drink. Mine's iced tea. Yeah, it's iced tea. Pretty sure. But before we get to sipping, raise your hand. How many of you have your drink with you? Raise your hand. Okay, you do realize I can't see you, but I do want to know how many of you raised your hand when I asked that. So let's take our first sip and we'll be right back.
Oh, I reckon that's some pretty good iced tea.
I like the way you talk, Dad.
I like the way you talk too. I reckon we're gonna do a little cooking today, and I was gonna do some of those French fried taters and whatnot, but I decided to do a little risotto.
Hey,
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our loin. It's a pork loin, and there's always a cap on the back. We're going to trim that cap down. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Once we come back, that'll all be trimmed down. What I did earlier is I took some garlic, crushed it up, and I marinated the garlic in a teriyaki and chicken sauce. And I'm going to put it through the netting so that we catch all the bits, as you can see that. And now we have our marinade. And we will inject this marinade into the pork loin. But first, as you can see, we're going to just take this back cap off. We're really not going to take all of it off because you do want some of that fat left on there. And you can render down that fat. It will render down when you're in the when it's in the oven. But the pork loin will be studded with garlic. And once we get ready to stud this thing or put the garlic inside, I will be back to you. And oh, I almost forgot. It's time for another sip.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, pork loin is all trimmed out. As you can see, I left a little fat on there. Now what you'll see here is we're going to inject this with the stuff that we made. I'm going to take this because we're going to use those garlic cloves in a little while. But I'm going to take and I'm going to inject this. All right, and we always want to inject it first. About an inch away from each other. Oops. It's leaking! It's leaking! It's leaking! Just a little bit more! Just a little bit more! There we go. Oh, he peed on me! Okay, and what we'll do after this, just make sure you get it around. What the? Just make sure you get it around. What the? Okay, that's enough. It's leaking. So what we're going to do is take our other little knife and we're going to do little cuts in there. And we're going to reuse the garlic that's been marinating in there to stuff down in the holes. Okay? Won't stud it outward, but they will be in there. Okay? Now we're doing all this first. Get the garlic right down in there because what we're going to do is something a little different today. Focus on me. Oops, while you're doing that, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid.
Oh, I reckon that's pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're just hitting it and whatnot.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So, in honor of this being Masters Week, and although it's not being played, my brother-in-law, Scott Marsh, and I, and Stephen Hicks, and my family, we usually sit down and we put in Caddyshack before the Masters comes down, and then we all watch it together. So, as Carl Spangler would say, Cinderella Boy at Augusta. He's got a few more holes to fill. Just a few more holes. He's going to the end. He's got maybe one more hole to fill. He's going to hit it from long ways. He's got probably 265 yards left. And he's going to hit about an 8-iron. And here it comes. The final hole is going to be filled. Cinderella Boy at Augusta. Tears in his eyes. Former greenskeeper. He hits it. It's going. It's going. Oh! It's in the hole. He wins. Cinderella Boy at Augusta. All right, we're going to do something a little different now. Now that all the garlic has been stuffed in there and it's been injected from my barbecuing times, we're going to take a little regular Frank's mustard and we're going to put it right on top. I'm going to rub it all in, all over it. What's going to happen is this is going to help the seasoning that I put on there form a crust for it. So once this is all situated, we're going to set it right here, put it in the fridge. Although my hands are dirty, take another sip. Okay, since I missed my sip with you last time, I'm making up for it right now, but you want to join me? Go right ahead. Yeah! Anyways, what I did is I did a little rub. I mix it together. And I used paprika. I used roasted garlic and herb. And, of course, the old standby Montreal seasoning. You do that. Whatever you think is the mixture you want to use. We're just going to sprinkle this along the top to help it form a crust. Okay. Make sure you get it even. Should crust it up good. And if you want, which I'll probably do a little later, is maybe do the whole thing. I might turn this over and do the bottom, but I'm not sure yet. But if you want to, you can. But that should do a nice crust. This will go into the fridge and keep cool. And we'll be back. This is pretty much ready to go in the oven. I'll tell you what we're going to do, how long we're going to cook it, at what temperature. And then we'll start on our risotto and our asparagus. So we'll be back. One more sip.
Oh, that's good stuff. I reckon it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. I might have another one and whatnot. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to get our asparagus ready. And I've already done some, but the proper way is just to bend it until it breaks. And that's where you want to do it. Bend it until it breaks. That's where you want to do it. Bend it. Don't cut them. Bend it until it breaks. We're going to take some olive oil. You can use regular olive oil, okay? Or what I'm going to use is a infused olive oil. It's a cilantro and roasted onion. And I'm going to put my finger over top. And I'm just going to drizzle, okay? Just drizzling. See that? Now, what then I'm going to do, very nice, is take your balsamic vinegar. This one happens to be a ripe peach, which I want to add a little fruitiness to the meal. And I'm just going to do a little balsamic vinegar over that. Okay. And it can be, oh, that's good. Oh, by the way, time to sip again. As you can see, mine's going way down. Oh, yeah. Then what I like is I like the sea salt, the big grain, because you don't have to use as much. Okay. Just a little bit in there. And then some pepper. And then we're going to roll them. Okay. Just going to roll these together and get all saturated with all the goodness. And we're going to put this in the oven. Now, what I didn't tell you is we're going to bake this at the same temperature that we're going to bake the pork loin. It's going to be 350 for the pork loin at 350 for about an hour for that pork loin because it's a 3-pound pork loin. And Matt and I figured out it's about 20 minutes per pound. So we're going to do that. I'm going to leave these in there for 15 minutes at 350. Okay? And if you want them a little flimsier, a little wiltier, you can leave them in there longer. But I know Joycey likes it firm. So I said Joycey. Anyways, sorry about that. We're going to leave it in for about 15 minutes to make sure this stays nice and firm. Okay, so now we've got the oven heated up to 350. We're going to put the pork loin in. As you see, it's been sitting in the fridge, but I moved it to a baking pan. And I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to put it up top because I am roasting. We have it on convection roast, so it's going to be up a little higher. The asparagus will go in with about 15 minutes left to go on that roast. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start our risotto. Let's do about 2 glugs of olive oil. And let's heat it up. Well, Vince wants to know where everything is. So we got the gas going here. And once this heats up, as you can see, I took 3 shallots. I chopped up the 3 shallots nice and firm, or fine. And I've got 2 teaspoons or a little bit more of garlic. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Oh my, I'm getting low. Next time you see me, I'll have a fuller glass, as you can tell. Although I'm not slurring yet. Did you sip? Okay, we put the onions and garlic in here with the olive oil, and we're cooking them down. You got to be careful because you can burn your garlic here. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our mushrooms. I'm going to turn this down in here. Take our mushrooms, and we're going to put the mushrooms in there, and we're going to let that go for about 2 minutes. Okay? Once we get this going, let it cook down. We're going to then transfer this to another little bowl, and we're going to add our rice and wine and that, heavy cream that makes me moist. So in a little bit, you'll see that we would have transferred this to another bowl, and we will add the rice, a little more olive oil, and heavy cream and wine, which will make me moist. Okay, we transferred all the stuff that we had cooking in here into another container. Now I'm going to add 2 more glugs of olive oil, and we're going to heat that up. That's going to get going. Make sure you take your wooden spoon and you use it. Wooden spoon is what my grandma Lena used to use, and she used to look at us after she's cooking and we were acting up, and she goes, "There are you kids, I'll give you a licking stick. I'll give you a licking stick." Okay, so we're going to take the rice. 2 cups of our Arabia rice or whatever it is. I'll get that name for you in a minute. We're going to put all the rice in there, and we're going to stir it around. We're going to cook it. Okay? Let it cook. Once it's in there and it's starting to brown, we're going to add our wine. You got to continually stir it. Okay? So now it's all getting covered with the olive oil. Okay? Once it starts to turn a little opaque, which it is already, by the way, I'm going to add my wine. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to grab my wine. 3/4 of a cup of white wine, which you always feel a little heavier, so you can taste it. You're going to add the wine, and hear that sizzle, and you're going to stir. Okay? Ouch! Ow! Careful. That steam is hot. Woo-hoo! Steam is hot. Yes, Steam is hot. Did you know that? So we're stirring that around. So I'll let that cook for a bit. I'm going to turn this down a hair. And then I'm going to show you that I did reload for you, and it is time for another sip. I did a cup of the chicken broth. You're going to need 6 cups of chicken broth. I just added 1 cup of it. Then we're going to cook and stir. Now I'm going to add another cup. Obviously, it's not exact science, but we're getting it going. And once we do this, as you can see inside there, it's going to cook and evaporate down into the rice. And as it keeps evaporating, we're going to continually add until our 6 cups of chicken broth is done. Okay, the rice has absorbed all of the chicken broth, and you can see it, as you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our heavy cream, about a 1/2 cup. Okay. We're going to add our mushroom mixture that we had sitting. And we're going to add Parmesan cheese. Now the Parmesan cheese, you put as much as you want in there. Okay. Going to stir this around. Oh boy. Oh my, does that look good? Oh boy, that looks good. And before we leave, you will see the finished product because I'm about ready to put the asparagus in. And remember, we're only going to do the asparagus for about 15 minutes. I'm going to turn this fire down a bit. Set that there. Take a sip. Woo! Put the asparagus in. Next to. You should see a finished plate shortly. And this, my friends, is a finished product. I hope you enjoyed this. And one last sip for you.